back to Children's Church. I'm so glad to have you here with me, and happy Father's Day. So, uniquely, we're not talking about a person who had a really good earthly father. Actually, he didn't even know him. But he did have a really good father figure in his uncle, and he had a really good father in God. So that's why we're talking about him today. His name is Josiah. He's part of our lesson series on Little Guy, Big Lesson. He was 8 years old when he was crowned king, and I'm going to read you some parts of his story. Josiah was 8 years old when he became king and reigned 31 years in Jerusalem. He did what was right in the Lord's sight and walked in the ways of his ancestor David. He did not turn aside to the right or to the left. In the 8th year of his reign, while he was still a youth, Josiah began to seek the God of his ancestor David. And in his 12th year, he began to cleanse Judah and Jerusalem of the high places, of the Asherah poles, the carved images, and the cast images. Then in his presence, the altars of Baal were torn down, and he chopped down the incense altars above them. He shattered the Asherah poles, crushed them to dust, and scattered them over the graves of those who had sacrificed to them. He burned the bones of the priests on their altars, so he cleansed Judah and Jerusalem. He did the same in the cities of Manasseh, Ephraim, and Simeon, as far as Naphtali and the surrounding mountain shrines. He tore down the altars, smashed the poles and the carved images to powder. He chopped them all down and returned to Jerusalem. In the 18th year of his reign, in order to cleanse the land and the temple, Josiah sent Shaphan, son of Azaliah, along with Maaseiah and the governor of the city, and the court historian Joah, son of Joahaz, to repair the temple of the Lord his God. All right, so that's some of the account of Josiah's reign. But how did we get there? So Josiah was the son of the last king before him of Judah, and he was not a good king. Manasseh was a bad king, sorry. So Manasseh dies out on the battlefield, and what does his grandmother do? She has all of the other royal babies killed. In fact, Josiah only survives because his aunt, Jehoshua, sneaks in and steals him away in the night and takes him to the temple of the Lord, where he's raised by her and her husband, who is the high priest at the time. So when I say he had a really good father figure, I mean that. He followed after someone who served God. He lived in the temple for the first 8 years of his life. He escaped harm, and he lived under God's protection. And that's where he lived and learned. And as he grew, it says in the 8th year of his reign, so he was 16 years old. So he's like about my nephew Judah's age. He starts seeking God the Father because he wants to know and understand the God that his fathers served. His father David, his kind of adoptive father who was the high priest. And he follows after God, and he's one of the very few good kings of Judah we have a record of. He's a good king, and he drives out all of the other gods. He burns down their altars, and he restores the temple of the Lord. Why is all of this important? Because Josiah didn't necessarily have a good image of an earthly father, but he did still have good dads. Sometimes it's not always the people you're born to, but people you find. And God is always a good father to us. He always chooses us and is always waiting for us. That's why I wanted to touch on Josiah for Father's Day, because while he didn't have an earthly dad who helped him along, he did have a spiritual one, and he had a heavenly father who loved him very much, and he followed after him all the days of his life. Have a wonderful week, guys. Have a wonderful day with whoever you celebrate Father's Day with, and I will see you all next week.